Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you all here. I hope we had a good lunch. I know it was a great one, and really encouraging morning. Really, a lot of good energy, a lot of great ideas. So looking forward to the afternoon here as well. So my name is Doug Keefe. I'm the Senior Director for Cyber, IM, and Data Services at Veterans Affairs Canada. So I'm based out of Charlottetown, PEI. So we got a shout out this morning from Nicholas at MasterCard talking about the hurricane impacts in PEI. That wasn't my favorite part of reliving the sounds of all the generators running and everything like that for a few weeks when I was there. But I did appreciate some of those insights that they were able to gather there as well. So certainly, happy to be here with you all. We also have a virtual audience as well. Just saying hi to them, reaching out to them here as well this afternoon. And so also going to be introducing all of the Track 1 panelists or Track 1 speakers this afternoon. But we're going to start it with a panel this afternoon on AI regulation and AI regulatory decision-making and building MVPs for AI-driven application processing in Canadian regulatory bodies. So I have a wealth of experience here as well. So I'll introduce Darek Kogut here as well. He's the Chief Data Officer, Executive Director for Alberta Utilities Commission. We have Maha Shah, who's the Senior Data Analyst for the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority, and Yongsheng Chen, the Lead Business Intelligence and Data Integration for Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. So welcome, good afternoon, and we're going to really dive into your experiences here as well. So I think, Maha, maybe we'll start with you this afternoon and some of your experiences to date with your organization.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Hi, everybody. So I'll introduce what the Resource Productivity and Recovery Authority is first really quickly. We're an environmental regulator in Ontario mandated by the government to enforce the environmental targets or laws within the circular economy space. So we're really working towards a waste-free Ontario. And that's really to give you guys some context of how new we are as a regulator and also the space that we operate within. So something that you're going to notice difference from my other panelists here is we're very up and coming and very new and green, pun intended here, for the space that we operate within. So we see huge potential within the use of AI tools in the space that we kind of operate within. We get a lot of data and we have a lot of use cases for it, but we know that being this young and being this green and new in a space like this, we really need to build the correct foundation for building such tools and systems, and we can't really just dive right into using something that's not built on the right foundation here. So we're really trying to build that foundation first, and to that effect, we have a couple of key efforts that we've already either completed or in the works of kind of building already. To make sure that when we are in a stage of advanced development and rolling out and piloting and testing all of these models that we already are kind of talking about, that we're doing it properly. And to that effect, one of the first things that we did was we learned from other regulators who are in a similar space as us, but also who have launched such models, who have kind of done their research, folks who have kind of looked at their models and had some learnings, and we're really trying to leverage those learnings from these other regulators in their own spaces to be able to make sure that we're doing things correctly, because being new, we're kind of given this opportunity to be able to learn from the lessons that folks have already kind of gone through a little bit. And to that end, something that we're really, really prioritizing and investing in is data governance and data management. Any model, any tool that we build is only going to be as good as what we put into it. And so something as a regulator that we really need to emphasize upon is that data quality. We need the data in the proper format. We need that data to be very valid and reliable to ensure that transparency and fairness in whatever tools we end up building it for. And whatever tool we end up building has to be very useful. And so we really emphasize cross-collaboration as well, and understanding what the technical feasibility of something is, but also the policy intent, because that really needs to be incorporated into whatever it is that we're building. And so also then engaging in that early dialogue about change management, about that usability and operationalization of whatever tools we do end up investing in. And so my perspective today is less about a finished MVP, but what it takes to even get there. And essentially, what does it mean for us to be AI ready and that AI readiness, and talk about kind of these big picture ideas. And these are really kind of important questions and critical ones, and they're really big questions, but it's good to also hear other kind of talks and folks talk about similar ideas for the kind of up and coming AI space as well. And I think it's about building responsibly and building that foundation first, and yes, be innovative, but also be trustworthy and accountable, and ultimately in the service of public interest for whatever our regulatory end goals are.
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, it's a really unique opportunity you have, right, at this point in your in the commission. So, just thinking of building on that, this is building from that foundation, and we're looking at, to have some of those foundational pieces, looking at some of these, exploring some of these MVPs, So, Yongsheng, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about MVPs from your perspective there. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Doug. And I'm Yongsheng Chen. I'm humble and honored to introduce to share some experience of actually our teamwork. I'm working with a team called Data Science and Analytics for the AGCO. I'd like to actually start with some of my own interpretation about MVP. I know MVP stands for the minimum viable product, but I also want to understand it as maximum valuable proof. M could be minimum, but also could be maximum if we laser focus on a very specific use case. And viable also can be valuable when we add some additional value to our daily practices. And the product, at the first, I would say it's a proof. So it's sometimes we call this POC, proof of concept, or MVP. I would say that it is a similar term to say when practices, back to our AGCO practices, is actually coming from our frontline needs. It's not coming from I want to sell some concept of AI, or I want to showcase something. So if I may, I will start with the story. And our frontliner inspector doing things every day. We all know that sometimes last year we expand the liquor retail. So our inspector suddenly had a lot of premises to inspect, including the convenience store and the grocery store. And they went there, they took observation, they took notes, and they also took photos. But one of the violation we want to capture is we call that inducement violation, which use the method of advertisement to improve a certain brand of liquor sale or distribution, which is not allowed. So, but our current practice is the inspector came there, they may capture a violation, but they are not asked to put all the brand name, or we call it manufacturer's name there. They may just highlight that violation or put some of the manufacturer name, but it doesn't have to be the thorough one. But they do take photos. So in some very small corner of that photo, there may be some advertisement tags, posters that we can identify. So we came up with this story. We started off our MVP to meet this frontline practitioner's need. We want to use the image process to capture all those appear on those photo. And so this is the story start. Today I want to introduce our share our experience with the three folds. One is the instructor, another is the practices or tools, third is monitoring. So before we go to some coding, the first thing we do is set up the infrastructure that we can allow the AI practice to be conducted. The infrastructure here, I want to highlight some in terms of the MVP concept is we try our best to utilize our existing infrastructure with the minimum efforts to change it. It could be our database structure, but also it could be an administrative framework. We try to keep it very in a minimum change way. We actually our team is spearheading also project initiative so-called DDC, Data-Driven Compliance. We work closely with the Change Management Office of AGCO to try to laser focus one specific line of business per use case. We do not want to spread some panic through our frontline practitioner. Sorry, that's maybe not an exaggerated word, but yeah. And then we try to utilize the note and the photos our inspectors have already taken back. And the second fold is the practice. I may share two examples. One example is we try to establish an inspection tool, not only capture the photo, but we want to help our inspectors from the beginning to the end. Let's say split into before inspection. We try to use so-called summarization tool to help them expedite the preparation. And during the inspection, we do the image, and after the inspection, we do some summarization to help them to do the text. And the last but not least is monitoring. We try to monitoring the process of MVP to make sure it's not exceeded our budget and try to control the pricing. One of the things is we may run a pipeline without our intention to continue that one, which may cause a big bill for our agency, and maybe our agency will give a red warning ticket for our practices. So pricing monitoring is also important. Thank you. Glad to share more experience with you.
Hey, thanks, Yongsheng. Yeah, cost-effective experimentation is really part of that consideration as well. It's not just experimentation. It's an important factor. And Darek, I imagine at your scale, and as you're operating, cost is certainly one of those aspects. But risk and governance are other pieces that really factor in there. So from your perspective, how are things looking?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. I'm from the Alberta Utilities Commission, and we're a 110-year-old organization. We're deeply rooted in the legal context of rendering decisions as Alberta's utility regulator. So everything we do involves lawyers, and when you involve lawyers, sometimes change can be glacial. So for us, our journey started about 3 years ago, I think. When ChatGPT first came out, everyone got excited. Everyone was like, wow, look at the potential of AI, and how can we use this within our organization? So I sit at our executive table, and sitting around the table with a bunch of lawyers, and they're saying, geez, this tech is moving. How can we bring that forward and implement some sort of solutions here to create efficiencies and make our staff more productive? So obviously I'm scratching my head, and I said, geez, well, we're going to have to look for easy wins on this, right? So the first thing I do is I actually attended this conference some 3 years ago, Montreal edition. And one thing I wanted to do, get out of that conference, was really learn about that back-end infrastructure, your governance, and we've heard a little bit about that today, and identified the right partners. So we were able to do that, came back to Alberta, had a couple of partners to work with. We also identified some universities within Alberta to kind of partner in terms of finding talent. I'm not a tech person, I'm not a data person, I'm a strategy business individual, but I have a very, very dedicated IT team. So what we did is we started off with created an AI ML center within our organization. With our partners, we identified some ideation, or through an ideation session, we identified a number of use cases that we could potentially look at utilizing emerging tech, primarily AI. And so everything from like style guides, so like proofing all of our documents before you press the release button, right through to looking at identifying minimal filing requirements and making sure those boxes are ticked, right through to actual regulatory decision making. So we identified our use cases, and again, kind of being a quasi-judicial agency of the government of Alberta, again, change is glacial, limited resources, so you want to identify your MVPs, and in our cases, our low risk, easy wins, right? And so over the 2-3 year journey now, we've identified 2 primary projects where we're looking at ticking the boxes on minimal filing requirements. There's a set of rules, guidelines, everything that a utility company needs to fulfill when filing an application to us. So we're using some large language models to work through those applications and providing an initial assessment through to our LAOs, which are application officers. That's been a real success. I mean, we're on a pilot basis at the moment, but we're hoping here in the next 3 to 6 months to get enough confidence in that tool and then look to scale it to additional use cases that we have identified. So for us, again, when I'm thinking about these MVPs, it's like looking at those cases where you could de-risk, find the easy wins, and create the tools for your employees to become a little bit more efficient, a little bit more productive, so you could redirect those resources into higher value areas. So that's been our experience.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hey, thanks, Darek. Yeah, that's interesting. You know, in the kind of risk-averse environment, we talk about that a lot, and certainly we're talking about these, low-risk entry points, and certainly, I've seen a lot of those really focus in on the internal use cases where, we have a little bit more control over, the stakeholders, and as we move forward. Certainly, Darek, I'm thinking about, working with the private sector closely as well. Are you exploring any projects and working with them as a stakeholder in the use of AI technologies yet, or?
Yeah, it's a great question. We didn't understand the value of the information we're sitting on until probably about six months ago. So we developed an in-house system for all of our filings, our applications that go through our shop. So we've got about, again, 100 years of regulatory decision making and the precedent that comes with that. And we got it all housed in an environment, and we had a number of utility parties, so the private sector, come to us and say, listen, we want your data. We want it, and we want to create internal large language models to help facilitate the application filing before you. So being a public sector agency, that data is not our data. It's the people of Alberta's data. It doesn't hold much monetary value to us, although it should. That's a different issue. So really, we have no choice but to provide it to them. But how we provide it to them is within our control. So that's what we're working through right now. We realize that we can't get further ahead without the participation of the private sector. So we're working very closely. We're setting up a community. It's kind of like a community of practice with a number of these players, just to learn from each other's experience. It's something I think we're going to be kicking off here probably in the next month or so, where through the sharing of that experience, we're also going to be looking at potential sharing of infrastructure as well with them. So Yeah, Doug, it's a good point, and I think for us anyways, they have to be at the table for us to be successful as well.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Darek. And go to Maha for a question here now as well. Again, talking about that unique environment where you're in, you have this chance to establish yourselves with a lot of the best practices that are out there. But sometimes in those new environments, you could also potentially be constrained by, the resources that you have as well. So, how do you look at that cross-functional collaboration, right? We have policy, we have data, we have IT kind of teams. So, from that perspective, how are you looking at that from that cross-collaboration point of view?
Yeah, for sure. Something that we really emphasize is that cross-functional knowledge, because being in a new space, we're also a smaller team, as we're kind of up and coming. We need to make sure that data, as it lives in silos, a lot of knowledge lives with different people, and we need to be able to find a way to kind of consolidate it and bring it together. Something that's worked for us is dedicated kind of working groups and kind of bringing them together for a dedicated example. You kind of design the scope, you get the requirements for the scope, and kind of work within a defined box at first to make sure that all the key players, at least representatives from those key teams, like you said, we need to make sure regulatory teams are involved, the folks who are actually enforcing these laws, the ones who understand it inside and out. We need to make sure legal probably is in there as well. We need to make sure IT is in there to kind of, just let us know for our tech systems, and we're not missing any security gaps there. Data governance is a huge piece, somebody from that team, and then obviously the analysts, such as ourselves and policy experts as well, and to get a seat at the table to make sure everybody's requirements are kind of formalized and jotted down, and to really define that scope and requirement of whatever tool it is. And that's really to define usability. How is it going to be used? What are the use cases of that? And once you have that defined, we can then work back from it to make sure everybody's requirements and everybody's kind of asks are taken care of, and prioritize in a way that this product would then be able to deliver. And if something is out of scope, we're able to identify it right then and there. If something becomes a risk, we're able to identify it that way as well. A lot of the times we work in a lot of technical environments, and we sometimes may have blinders on to something that a policy expert might actually make us aware of, or somebody from IT might make us aware of. And I think those are really important perspectives to be included in, especially in a new environment when we're trying to build a new tool, a new system. And then we really need to also, again, engage with those folks who are going to be using the tool at the end of the day. We're kind of building it for them to use. So we really need to take that perspective into consideration as well.
Excellent. Okay, and Chen, one of the things that struck me is just around that thought about the cost controls. We were talking about that, and it's a real constraint that we have, and we have to work with within our organizations. Maybe now more than we have in the past as well. So we want to balance that, I think, with innovation or the opportunities we see. We have, speaking personally, we had an example where we were running some AI workloads that were costing us like $40 per run. It was pretty substantial, but with the development of new models, we were able to bring that down substantially, like tenfold kind of thing. But whenever you're thinking about that and working on your MVPs, how did you balance this cost control with innovation?
And thank you for asking. I start with different approaches and different models. And one of the speakers earlier this morning mentioned that we need to switch to AI from Power BI. But I also want to say another opposite direction thing. Actually, sometimes we save our cost by using our existing license, such as Power BI. One example is Power BI has AI Insight. Click on the AI Insight, we will get to the text analysis. So we get something as long as our agency, our company, our ministry has some premium license, premium per-use license, and this approach doesn't have to be a standalone model, but in terms of the standalone model, let's say we use, it's not for advertisement, but our vendor, let's say we use AI Foundry, we can deploy different type of models, but my experience told me that I have to keep very high caution on the different costs of the models changing from $200 per million token to $0 per million token. This wide range. Because we have to be aware that we can deploy the model, but that model doesn't have to be an open source model. Some models are expensive because they are so-called proprietary model. We pay not only for the training, we pay for the update, we pay for the patent, we pay everything. So as high as $200, but some free model is $0. So we have to, my colleague and I eventually make some working habit. Is like we use the baseline model to do the sufficient thing with the lowest cost. That's the thing. We also want to show our agency this type of control so that we get some high comfortable or high confidence to proceed with more AI practices.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, great. So we did leave a little time for some questions as well, if there are any out there from folks. Okay. Well, not seeing any more.
Oh, we got one back there.
We do. Oh, great. Excellent.
Can you hear me? Oh, thank you. In terms of getting your teams to collaborate, since you were talking about all the different stakeholders, the analysts, the policymakers, your security teams, IT, et cetera, is there anything you do to help bridge the gap between all of these teams and help them understand these more complicated concepts? Sometimes, I guess, machine learning models and AI are kind of like the Wizard of Oz. There's the wizard behind the curtain. How do you make it accessible to your other team members that might not have the analytical or technical expertise?
I'm going to guess that was a question for me, so I can definitely speak to it first. Something that I really emphasize is being able to explain something that's really complex in very simple terms. And as long as we're able to do that, we're able to bridge the gap between the technical folks in the room and the folks who are providing us more of that business knowledge, not necessarily that technical knowledge. Something as a regulator that we really need to emphasize also is explainability and auditability of any model or tool or any advanced analytics that we design. And as long as you can follow that logic in very simple terms, that model ends up being a more valid, more reliable model. And so I follow the same logic in collaboration with other teams as well. If I can translate the technical expertise and technical kind of skills in the background required or the work required into very simple terms, and I can translate that to our business users in terms of what they are going to be interacting with, I think that's key there. And usually that falls under the role of somebody who is kind of the data steward on the business side. So think of your kind of data champions in the business side, the very not necessarily advanced data users, but users who interact with data on a lot more frequent basis as opposed to a frontline worker, for example, or data systems at least. And then that's your data champion, and you kind of explain these models to them, and then they can kind of take that back to their team and then translate it even more for their teams and understand what those uses and operations of any model that we design for them or any tool that we design for them can be.
I'd probably just very quickly add, Maha pretty much summed it up how I would answer it, but in addition, we have truly identified a great partner for us, and they're facilitating a lot of that collaboration, bridging the different technical groups and just divisions within the organization. They've done a phenomenal job, but you really have to look internally to your champions, identify them, and then have the facilitator or the partner kind of work with them and kind of create a culture of collaboration within your organization.
And if I may quickly share another use case is one of our team dealing with plenty of public information inquiry. We help them, we work together with them to establish an internal chat box to allow them to use the plain language to ask a question quickly, pull out the standard policy, and then that's kind of like we help them make their work much more efficiency. Through this channel, we kind of like increase the collaborations of through the teams and throughout the agency. Thank you. Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Hi, sorry, just one more question. We have enough time. Sorry, just for Derek, I was wondering, as working at a quasi-judicial kind of commission that probably has a lot of legal and policy procedures, I was just wondering if you have any tips and tricks on how to integrate the policy and the legal folks into the process.
Yeah, I got 7 seconds, so I'll catch you offline, but it's not simple. A lot of lawyers, so we're working with other tribunals as well to have an integrated approach. And again, you got to work with industry, and there's some tapping into the provincial judicial kind of guidelines on AI and the use of AI within the legal framework. So we're doing a lot of research on that as well. Thanks.
great. Well, thanks so much. And so join me thanking our panel here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.